Today is January 24, 2022. 03, Normalizing Atheism, today open discussion, reaction, 24, Nate Cunningham, Protestant. And we are going to continue from where we left off before 02, Normalizing Atheism, etc. Got kicked off the internet.
When these things happen, yeah, I have no desire to put in that position. And people are like, well, you know, statistically, you're less likely to die in a plane than a car. Okay, I understand statistically, but
yes.
You know, consider the X factor, which is me. So even though statistically it may be more likely, you know, I would much rather be behind the wheel, having a sense that I'm controlling my destiny, even if there are other drivers on the road who aren't. Then yeah, putting trust in like the pilot's hand, who I have no idea what's doing.
But I mean, but even then, the statistics still are pretty clear that you have a better chance of dying in a car accident than a plane crash, even with these new crashes that have happened last year.
That's based on the amount of people that fly at any one time, etc., etc.
Well, I think there's some things they don't take into account, like black cloud syndrome. Like, you know, there may only be like, you know, a handful of plane crashes a year compared to car accidents, but if I'm on that plane, there's a really good chance that's going to be the plane that goes down.
Hey, can we get back to current affairs, current events?
Huh?
Can we get back to current events?
We can.
Current.
Let's see. We have. Let's see.
I have something that's bothering me about current events. Bothering me.
You have a specific one, yeah.
Did we break Sid? What's he doing?
He has a specific.
No, I'm
trying to get out.
I'm trying to get the floor.
Oh, okay. You have the floor.
Okay. When I was growing up as a little boy, I remember seeing pictures of the Second World War, grainy black and white pictures of people in a forest, naked perhaps, females, males, digging a ditch or standing in front of a ditch and being shot by a German soldier and then falling into the ditch. You know, like horrific stuff that I was so glad that was in the past when I saw that as a child.
Yeah, I was going to say current events.
Well, hold on a second, I'm getting there.
This sounds a little bit further from.
And every time I saw, hold on a second, and every time I saw mass graves, the German mass graves, as a child, I used to think, I used to get ill, I used to feel like really weird inside, and sort of say, thank goodness that it's all behind us. But now, today, I can watch on LiveLeak or on YouTube or on any news channel almost, the same type of thing in high-resolution color, and I am absolutely sure. I'm stunned that at the silence that the world that there's nothing being said about this. When 7 years ago it was you know, this was Nazis, got to wipe them out. Today you got the same thing. They're not Nazis, but they're tolerated, it seems to me, and I'm having a problem. I'm having a problem settling that in my head.
Right. Well, and it seems like everybody's worried about their own country's little problems, if they're even worried about that. It's all like you said. There's not one big. The world's not looking at it as a worldly issue.
No, but with the subject of let reason reign that we have attached to our broadcast today, I don't see any reason anywhere near the public podium, as it were. Like nobody's, you know, all Christians are being killed and beheaded and machine gunned, kids, and the Christian movement in North America, anyway, seems to me to be, I won't say ignoring it as much, but more prioritizing the homosexuality and the gay marriage, etc.
I still think
Oh, I'm happy you brought that up. That's kind of a
Thank you.
topic I wanted to throw in, but let's finish this first.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's certainly not a Christian problem. It's a human problem. So how I don't know if there is a way to fix that. Like,
See, if I could sort of jump in right there, I would actually say the problem lies with just how we conceive ourselves as a species itself. How we actually perceive ourselves on a global scheme of things. If we actually understand that we have more things in common than are different, that's something that would actually play into that intricately. That being the point that I'm trying to make, I know I'm basically living off a pipe dream of that being the case that'll happen in the near future, but I like to think as we expand into the universe, as we actually learn that we're not the only people that exist within the universe and that there are other things out there that we can explore, that's something that will help unite humanity for at least a...
this guy is a bloviating idiot. He makes no sense at all. He talks absolute shit. And he has no right, he had no right to be on the show. He thought he had like carte blanche, whatever he can do whatever he wants because he's Mike, the neo-atheist, who's somehow a co-founder of secular TV. So he was in the room totally uninvited, and it was the very first show. So I was like a deer in the headlights in terms of the outline, the framework. So we were just really all just, just doing it off the cuff. Mike, in a way, kind of spoiled that sort of flow. I have no idea why he did that. I have no idea why he thought it was necessary for him to be in that room at the time. But he certainly didn't contribute anything meaningful at the time.
Initiative that is greater than self and help us rise above these situations and find ourselves.
If we could look outward as a global society and start exploring what we don't know and let go the mythical past, I think we'd be way better off as a civilization.
Still think
Even if we kept the mythical past, even if we kept the stories of where our ancestors believed were our past, I still think that just expansion into the universe and using that as a catalyst to help us rise above these problems, it's something that actually transcends any issue on the planet today. I mean, it would help with war, it would help with famine, it would help with the population crisis. There's so many problems that would be solved if we just look outward. Let's learn how to picture ourselves in the grand scheme of things.
But Mike, no, today we are at the forefront of our technological achievements. You know, we
are at the forefront, but the best thing about the forefront of our technological achievements is they're always advancing. They're ever changing.
I understand that. But my point is that as advanced as our technological achievements are, and as advanced as they are going to be, we have more and more on the planet itself with the people. There's more and more extremism. So you've got all this advanced technology going out there, you know, with the space station and all this kind of stuff. Yet we have more extremism. Conversely, we have more extremism on the planet.
One of these extremisms, actually, the level of extreme that exists on the planet itself, at least from a cultural sense, would actually be linked to geographical property, resources. If we can actually expand out past the problems that we actually have here today and show that they do exist in the universe, let's start expanding onto Mars. Let's start actually seeing what is out there. Let's get a mad
actually get on the same page beyond just platitudes and pleasantries to really do something about it. You would think it's common sense, like, oh, we have a terrorist group who's threatening to, pull down our own government and our own regime, to the countries in the Middle East. So why wouldn't we welcome with open arms anyone that wants to confront?
I'm gonna make an observation here in terms of the show and the chemistry and whatnot between Nate And me, I'm actually thinking I don't understand why at this point it's only halfway through his not even, it's only a third of the way through his that first show. I still don't understand why he made the decision at the end of the show. That's it. I'm out of here. I can't do this. I'm a Christian. But maybe something will unfold in the next 40 minutes. I hope so.
Confront that. If someone wants to confront that because people are dying, if we want to confront that because we want to keep our regime, you know, you can do the right thing for the wrong reasons, but do something. And I think there's almost too many chiefs and not enough Indians. And yeah, I hate what's happening. You know, with the whole Middle East ISIS thing, the Syrian Christians and all this. It's completely disgusting to the core. And yeah, where are the voices?
Yeah, just remember, this was January of 2015 when this was recorded. So at the time, I think ISIS had just begun to acquire their whole caliphate, their whole new caliphate and stuff. I think that was the turmoil of at the time, because it was 2015 was Obama and before Trump. Right, so it's about this is January 2015. Trump didn't come in until January 2017. It's 2 years before Trump.
Seems, you know, and if we can, to the next point that I kind of wanted to bring up, let me screen share for this one. I think too slowly for my liking, but slowly but surely, it seems like that's about to happen or happening. So I was just scrolling through, I think this is CNN Belief blog or something. But anyway, so it talks about, you know, the Pope and some of the changes he's going on, and I don't know if you're able to read that or whatever. Basically, you know, a lot of the social issues, the Pope's saying back off. So he's not necessarily, you know, dealing with, you know, Christian theology or Catholic tenets and saying what you think is wrong is now right. I don't see he's doing anything like that. What I do see he's doing is saying, guys, back off. Like, if these people don't even believe in a God, then why are you griping about stuff because they believe differently than you? Or, you know, why are you trying to force your stuff in politics? All it's doing is distracting from the actual message of what we believe, and you know, it's focusing on all this other minutia that's just detrimental and destructive. Yeah, like, why couldn't the Catholic Church, or, you know, since the Pope's addressing them specifically, why couldn't they unite and drop the gay marriage thing and pick up the, hey, let's stop people from killing Christians thing? That'd be great. And I completely support that. You know, from my own standpoint, I think it's, you know, ridiculous, and I think it goes against, you know, Christian theology to do what a lot of these people are doing in politics. Whenever religion takes prominence in politics, not a lot of good things happen. Look at the Crusades. Look at, you know, 4th century Rome, for example. You guys want to say anything about that? You've been quiet, Mr. Raccoon and Hello Kitty. You guys want to?
It's an interesting concept. I mean, like, when you're dealing with interests that are happening in a different country, you know, a lot of times the movement has to be, well, whether within that country to stop it, but if that's not an option, that's when you generally have third party outside, you know, police the world, you know, type actions that come in. But I find it really difficult to move. You know, a military in a country that's on the most part, you know, considered a secular government like the U.S. to intervene on a religious action. It seems weird.
Wait, what?
What I'm saying
on a religious action.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a religious conflict going on, you know, moving moving the non-religious force in there. How do I explain this in a better way?
Well, I'd like to chime in here with what's going on today, right now, actually, in the Ukraine, eastern Ukraine, where Russia is fixing to, at least we think, the West thinks that Russia is fixing to invade eastern Ukraine. Now, the Russians are, as far as I know, they are Orthodox. The Ukrainians, as far as I know, are Orthodox as well. So it's not a religious war today. It's to do with expansionism or the prevention of expansionism. Because once Ukraine joins NATO and there are weapons, defensive weapons on Ukraine's border with Russia, then I don't understand why it's such a big deal when other countries have borders with Russia and they're part of NATO. For some reason or other, Russia considers Ukraine a buffer country, which shouldn't be part of NATO. It should be like neutral. Maybe they've got a point. I just don't understand why they don't. If that's the case, why didn't they insist that Lithuania and the other Baltic states or countries remained out of NATO as well? I just don't understand that part of it. But this is going back 7 years.
Well, I think I get what you're saying, but I don't think religion has. I mean, you know, maybe for some people it has something to do with it, but I think the biggest thing is it's a serious humanitarian crisis. Like, I don't think a government force is going to go be like, oh, hey, stop killing Christians for your religious belief, now convert to our religion. Like, you know, I think my point starts and stops with stop killing people.
Yeah, good point.
But yes, absolutely. The thing is, though, isn't it the lazy man's way out by, instead of focusing on the killing people that is happening today right now, by focusing on things like, you know, picketing homosexuals and abortions and stuff like that, because it's a lot easier and less dangerous. You don't have to worry about it. You picket, you go home.
Well, maybe. I think there's a better correlation. I wouldn't say it's the lazy man's way out. By the way, Westboro Baptist Church was protesting in the town next to me for recreational marijuana. Out of like thousands of dispensaries, they picked one to go to anyways. So, you know, it's certainly, I wouldn't say that is lazy because there's a lot of work there. I think it's a lot of passion that's just seriously misplaced.
Yeah, but if the passion, yeah, okay, so how do you change the passion to to be focused from the unimportant to the absolutely important?
Well, it seems a lot of things get their grounding grassroots type movements. So, you know, every chance I get, I certainly try to do, you know, my part or above and beyond my part to make that, you know, to drive these points home for people in my own camp. And, you know, I think what the Pope's doing is a good start. So yeah, I mean, no matter if it happened now, it would be too late. But I guess, you know, as long as it's making some sort of progress, well, that's something. But yeah, how do we accelerate it? How do we get it to move faster?
I'm glad you mentioned the Pope. He's bothering me too.
What could actually be the case? If I can sort of jump in here for a second, Saka, what's your thoughts on everything that's been said thus far?
Well, there's it's kind of bouncing around there on a couple different topics. Like as for the misplaced, I'd almost say kind of like attention of some of the religious movements, where, you know, protesting things like, you know, the war on Christmas, you know, gay marriage, all these other issues there. These are really you know, kind of local issues that people will protest here. But yeah, there are so many other things in the world that we should really take care of, you know, beforehand. That focusing on points like that just seem kind of, well, pointless to me, I guess, at that point. But the other thing too is that what I find funny is whenever the Pope does come out and say things like that, is that, yeah, it seems sensible, it seems great, whatever. But, you know, do you think that things like that put more of a rift between the Protestant movements and the Catholic movements? Because I know that as it is, a lot of you know, Protestants inside the, you know, countries like the states don't even take things like the Pope says seriously at all.
True, and I would have to agree with all the points you just made. Xbox, do you want to weigh in on what's been said so far?
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add. But that Sokka didn't just say. That's what's been going on in my head too. I mentioned the War on Christmas a minute ago for that very reason.
Sokka did make some great points. So, Sid, let me toss it back over to you. I just wanted to sort of see what the raccoon's perspective was on that.
See, Mike is an idiot. He's got no right to just take over, and he disturbs the flow every single time that he opens his mouth. And then when he gets stuck, it's, oh, Sid, back to you. Even though it hadn't come from me. I mean, as far as I could tell, it was Nate who was doing the talking and other guys. I wasn't doing, well, whatever. But I don't like you, Mike. You ruined everything you touched.
Yeah, I seem to recall a couple of popes back that the Pope made a speech in which he said that the evidence for evolution is indisputable, and therefore he has no problem with evolution, and it's true, and I guess every Catholic has to follow what the Pope says. Okay.
That was just his opinion on it. He didn't say it from his actual seat. That was just his opinion on it.
How about this current Pope?
Yeah, that's who I'm talking about. Sorry.
Well, I'm talking about John Paul II when he originally read it out.
Yeah, I was talking about the current one. I don't know about the previous one.
Yeah, the previous one he made it sort of part of Catholic law or whatever.
No, it wasn't that it became part of Catholic law. It was that it was it basically said there's nothing wrong with believing in it. That it
Right.
Evolution doesn't go against Scripture.
That's what it says. But I have a problem with that. How does evolution and creationism, how do they complement each other?
Well, they don't. I mean, in a certain sense, all Christians are creationists. It just the form, the model that got to where we are now just varies between, taking a look at Old Testament scripture as more of a kind of a story, kind of analogous, or then compared to the young Earth creationists that take a look at it as this is a literal telling of what happened.
Well, aren't the young Earth creationist Christians much the same, in much the same idea avenue about the age of the universe or the age of the Earth as the ultra-Orthodox Jews, as Orthodox Jews?
Can you say that again?
The Orthodox Jews, I believe, as well, have this 6,000-year-old.
No.
Yes. Yes. I bet you if you ask one of the Orthodox Jews that we hang out with how old the Earth is, they will say, well, according to my Bible, and I believe my Bible, it is 6,000 years old.
This is, I guess I have 2 points, which one, this is a great example, because how often does the age of the stupid rock we live on come up, and people spend hours and days, and I've been here 3.5 years, and there's like an 80% chance any hangout I go in about religion is going to end up about that. So imagine if we could be like, if the atheist could be like, it doesn't matter, Christians, believe what you want. Christians, it doesn't matter, per your own belief. And then instead they would focus all that energy on how all the stupid dirtball is, instead on the humanitarian crisis in Syria, Uganda, all these other places that are war torn, and raise attention to that. So I'd say would be great. The next thing, I guess, I would seriously need to be corrected on this, because as far as I've ever heard, including Gav, who's our kind of resident observant Jewish perspective, he's told me that with observant Judaism, it's really, there's not a lot of room for interpretations. Like, there's a handful of different things observant Jews may believe, but it's nothing like Christianity, where they'll differ on should you use salt or freaking pepper. So in observant Judaism, I've always heard, especially Gav and I did a hangout about this to clear it up, that the observant Jews, right, whose history this actually is, they kind of view Genesis 1 as a rebirth. So before Genesis ever happens, they believe that the Earth was here for an undetermined amount of time with life and even with humans. That's what I've always understood to be an observant Jewish perspective. So whenever Genesis 1 starts, that's when they think some catastrophe or cataclysmic event happened and, you know, extincted or nearly extincted all life on Earth. So they see Genesis 1 as a rebirth. So, you know,
they actually translate that as in a beginning and not in the beginning.
Yeah, so I don't want to, you know, swing this thing all the way back to, you know, this stuff. But yeah, so that's a point I tried to bring up to young Earth creationists. I'm like, guys, we certainly believe, you know, the Jewish religion is wrong in some areas, like that whole Jesus thing. We think they got that wrong, but you need to consider the source. So, you know, consider the people who actually penned this to paper and carried this through oral tradition for hundreds or thousands of years before that. Even they don't see this as God created the earth in 6 days and 6,000 years old. They see this as a new beginning, where Adam was the first man who had the soul. And anyway, so I think that's important to point out.
Okay, but it still doesn't mesh with evolution, no matter which way you point it out. In my opinion, anyway, the way I see it.
Well, they what it is the ones that believe in evolution and mesh it with Christianity per se, if that's just one, is that the abiogenesis was God.
Yeah, but that also doesn't make sense.
Everything beyond that, and that evolution says, follows from that. God was the spark of life that the study and that they're trying to find with abiogenesis.
Yeah, but when you look at it the way it was, the universe was around for 14 point something or whatever billion years, and then the solar system emerged out of it, the sun and the planets, and once everything settled down, the sun was and the earth, they were at sort of in this Goldilocks position, and the sun, the heat, and the materials on the planet Earth kind of got life going, in some.
Hey, that's actually, Nate said that's a great point. So what's the next news article we should be discussing?
Good point. No digression here.
What was that?
Let's see.
I say no digression from me.
Hey, if nothing else, we can give great examples of what not to do.
We could, but this is the pilot episode, so there's bound to be a few
That's correct. This is right.
Let's
And
see.
I've just read that the Palestinian United Nations resolution fails. The UN Security Council rejects a resolution demanding an end to the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territories within 3 years. Tough luck, Palestinians. Too bad. So sad.
So we should expect more unrest.
Yeah, more bombing.
You can, no, not because of this. You can expect more unrest no matter what.
The only other topics I have are pretty heavily religiously affiliated. So if anyone else has something else they'd like to go through first. There's also the arrest made in Hollywood killing of a transgender woman shot in the head. But, I mean, at least just from reading this, it has nothing to do with the transgenderness, and it seems to have everything to do with an armed robbery gone wrong.
Mm.
Absolutely. At least, not absolutely. I shouldn't say absolutely. Most plausibly, I should say. Because I think that transgender people are an easy mark anyway, an easier mark. So it might not be 100% just a robbery gone wrong.
Why do you say that it is your mark? You think it's that they're more likely to do violence to get to that point?
They're more likely to do violence to a transgender person than they are to a cisgendered person.
Oh, you mean the police or someone else, I guess.
No, the robbers. Like for example, they'll go up to a transgender person, try and steal the purse, and she'll fight back or whatever, and then they shoot her in the head or whatever. But if they were to do the same to a regular woman, say, and she were to fight back and hold back her purse, perhaps they won't shoot her in the head. They'll run away, or they'll actually take the purse and leave her alive. Like her life is more valuable as well.
That's interesting because I thought Nate's story was saying that like the perpetrator was the transgender person and was shot by the police, but I didn't think of looking at it from the robber's position.
Oh, maybe I read it wrong then. I guess I don't
No,
know.
no, you brought up a good point for it. I hadn't thought about it as being the robber's position, being a transgender person, maybe more apt to have violence against you if or
Well, I think there's.
justice.
Well, I think
Yeah, it
there's
was the transgender was killed.
Yes. Well, I think there's a lot to unpack there because, how, I guess, what state or what stage are the subjects in question in? The robbers, the transgender person? Because, I mean, a lot of times, how would they even tell? Like, especially, depending where this person is in their transition. So, for all intents, I think it may be easier to boil it down to, what someone perceives as a male or female. Like, if you see, if I was in the place of a robber and I saw what I thought was a male figure in, blue jeans with pocket chains and a Harley Davidson jacket, I'd think, I'm not nearly as excited about robbing this guy. Versus if I see, a figure that looks female with, I don't know, long hair or a coat or a purse or bag or something, I'd immediately think, well, that's a more likely success rate if I were to rob them. So I don't think the transgenderness would even come into play until they were point blank. And then maybe still not because, adrenaline's going and I don't know. Or the other side, people fear what they don't understand, so they're somehow angered just by the mere presence of this person, which,
What about
most
the idea?
things, education is key.
But what about the idea of just the fact that the news article was reporting it in such a way? Arrest has been made in shooting of a transgender woman. Like, why? Does adding that stuff in make the story more valid, or are they? What's the end goal of even trying to go into details like that?
Profit.
Yeah, for their goals, I think the media shares so much responsibility and blame for all. I mean, just look in the last few months. Oh gosh, I hate the media so much. Here we are talking about it and using it. But yeah, like the headline you would read, transgender woman shot because of a robbery, and you'd think that it somehow had to do with her transgenderness. After reading the article, it seems like it has nothing to do with it. She just happened to be transgender, and the author of this article wanted maybe some kudos or props or some headlines, so they threw that in there to make it seem like it was a hate crime or motivated to get more readers, which is just crap. I mean, if you look at, I guess not the airline coverage, but if you look at the Garner, New York situation, the Ferguson situation, if the media had not been present,
I still don't understand why we didn't continue, or why Nate didn't continue on secular TV after this first episode. We're literally 15 minutes from the end, and it's going well. He's a star. He's doing well. It might have had something to do with what he said earlier, in that he was trying to introduce some religious topics or something. I can't remember how this ended, but it obviously went downhill at the end, because he was visibly uncomfortable with being either on the panel with me or with being part of the network as a whole. So I'm interested to find out.
or if they just would have shut up and reported the news, what actually happened, no interpretation, I don't think there would have been near the thing. It's like they're doing this like mongering behind the scenes. It's like, is this racial tension still alive? Well, to some degree, sure, but you're making it worse. It's like they're instigating things. Do you remember that James Bond movie? It was, what was it? Tomorrow Never Dies, I think, with the news mogul. And, he had this secret invisible ship, and he was trying to instigate wars and all this other stuff. And it wasn't long into the movie where he went from just trying to twist words to make tensions rise, where he actually started doing things to actively instigate and start wars, to maybe a much less James Bond supervillain level. I'd say that's what I see in the news a lot. And unfortunately, people aren't smart enough or unwilling or unable to sort fact from biased interpretation or biased stuff on top of it.
Right.
And then you have Ferguson in New York. And I don't think, without CNN's help, it would have been nearly the kerfuffle it was.
Yeah, but
But
don't forget.
there's yeah, you're right. But I mean, in situations like Ferguson, New York, there might be some actually benefit to bring more kind of a awareness to certain situations that are kind of going on around the country at that given time. But in an article like this, like I said, this is an armed robbery goes wrong. Why? This is the one where they're trying to kind of throw in kind of a extra details here and I'm just trying to figure out what's the end goal of that.
Yeah, and here, let me share the screen so people can see what we're talking about. It'd probably be good to share our source. So, oh goodness, I already closed it.
What kind of profiling do you call that when it's sex based and not race based?
I don't know, but in this case,
I don't think it's profiling. I think it's the media having to get money to pay their employees, and so they've got to get news out. They've got to get revenue somehow. And I think what they do is they jump on the smallest little thing and blow it up every single time.
Well,
oh, here we go.
I agree. I wasn't meaning on the media side, though. I was meaning on how you were saying it, how someone would profile a transgender person, do more damage to them. And
Well, I mean, I think for cases of this, which KTOA, Melissa Pammer. Anyways, I think for what actually happened in the story that's reported in the rest of the article, it should have said something like arrest made in a Hollywood killing of woman shot in the head. Why do you need to mention transgender? It was not a factor, as best we can tell, and as far as this report reads, it has nothing to do with her transgenderness. It has everything to do with her woman getting robbedness.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, does that, and that's where I ask the question. I mean, is that just by putting that inside the article, it's almost like they're trying to incite this,
why put white policeman kills black unarmed teenager in Ferguson?
Oh, yeah, that I forgot about that completely. Yeah, that was like the other part of the trifecta. Yeah, so you can't get around it. Maybe more so it's justifiable because it actually was a black teenager shot by a cop who was actually white. But the way they spin it, whenever and this seems to be like they actually had footage of, they actually did have footage of this black teenager, at least I've heard. I actually haven't seen the article myself, so grain of salt it. But I've been told, they have videos showing this black teenager pulling a gun on this cop, and he gets shot because of it. But the headline says nothing about that. The headline says everything about white cop shoots another black teenager, and
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I hate that. That's so sketchy. That's why
I hate the media, just like you do.
That's like what?
Just like you do.
Just the fear mongering.
It doesn't seem like anybody has the mantra in their head, like, do good, do good, do good, do good. None of them.
It's crazy, I wish I had a magic button, or if I could rule the world. So vote for me for universal leader. But until that day comes, it's constant, right? It has so little, I'm convinced, to do with any theistic anti.
See, there's a show with a Christian, Nate Cunningham, and an atheist, Sidney Winston. We didn't get into it there's still another few minutes left, but we didn't get into it, and I still don't understand why Nate was so uncomfortable at the end. Possibly he either tried to introduce, I'm just speculating what he did because I don't remember, so we'll just listen. My plan here is to conclude this clip by opening up the room to talk, the hangout, opening up a hangout for any discussion. There is a whole series of Nate Cunningham videos or my reaction to Nate Cunningham's videos, or Nate Cunningham's live streams, where he continuously promotes the lie of Jesus. Jesus is a myth. We all know Jesus is a myth. But Nate, we all got to work on you, buddy. That'll tie into the current January 2022 Nate Cunningham on Clubhouse. We'll get there. We'll tie it all together. But let's finish this one in the meantime.
Atheistic beliefs or religion, because we're all the same. If there's one great thing humanity is good at, it's messing stuff up. So to the theists, it'll go something like, look how good and moral I am, I follow this God that says love people and da da da, and then they get challenged, so they're like, F you, you suck, die, I hate you, and they like doc drop everyone and like try to flag YouTube channels. And then the atheist is like, well, look how good and pretentious and moral I could be without God. And in the next breath, they're like, F you, you piece of crap, da 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 da, and like both sides are freaking out. I'm like, okay, I do think there can be good moral atheists without a belief in a God, and I do think Christians can be good and moral, because it's just the right thing to do. But in this case, neither of you are doing that. So how do we get people to not just say stuff, but actually follow through and do it? Like, if you say how good and moral you can be, do that. Be that.
Are you listening, Darth Dawkins? This is Nate Cunningham teaching you how to be more Christian. How to turn your life totally around and actually be more Christian in Nate's version of Christianity.
But
Okay,
we are.
done
We
preaching.
do. Okay, you done?
You gotta take a breath.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead, Sid.
why, you want to talk about morality now? I don't think you do. I do want to take this opportunity to tell you that I've been on Hangouts now for what have been probably 3 years, and I've known Nate for most of that time, and I've watched him basically go from I think it must have been a newly married guy with a new house, new everything, to being the family man with the kids and the dogs, and it's actually it was kind of pleasant to watch the whole progression. I just want to say congratulations.
All right, thank you.
Hey, isn't that
Anytime
nice
you'd
of
like
you?
to babysit the kids, I will UPS them to you.
Oh, no problem. $500 an hour. How's that?
Ugh. Well, we'll see how YouTube monetization goes. So far, I've done it for about 3 years, and I've made $7 in 3 years. So
Yeah.
give me a few more decades, and maybe we'll talk.
That's $7 more than me, but I guess I'd have to create content.
There you go.
Let's see. We're almost at the end. I guess the last 10 minutes. Anyone have any?
We've got about 10 minutes to go. Yeah.
It's amazing. Okay, so it was supposed to be an hour show. And I just think that if Neo-Atheist wasn't there, we would have been able to make a really good flowing show out of it. He fucked it up, Mike did. But let's see. Go ahead, Nate.
Well, I say we've got about 10 minutes to go, so we can either take another subject. I just want to tell you that that little kid who shot the 2-year-old who shot the mother.
Yeah.
Oh, the son shot the mother was in looks like Boise. No, it was in Idaho.
Huh.
Place called Hayden, Idaho, northern Idaho.
Did you say it killed the mom?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. Was there any other? Did anybody else pick up on any more on Christmas stories over?
So, a little kid. Oh my God, it's true. Okay, so remember, this is 7 years ago. This little kid, 2 years old or something, whatever, picked up a gun and shot his mother dead. That's 7 years ago. If the kid was 3, that kid is now 10. I would like to interview that kid. I've never interviewed somebody that young with that kind of a memory data bank of murdering your mother. Just saying, I'd like to.
Over the holidays.
Well, who won?
The war on Christmas?
Yeah.
I think they decided that at New Year's.
Oh.
Okay, I wasn't quite.
I
I'm not quite
thought
sure.
there was a I thought there was a ceasefire this year.
Oh, it's just until next year.
That's what I was wondering. I didn't see too much of it on the news. I didn't watch too much TV throughout the week, but
You know what? To be honest with you, I don't even have TV.
Usually when I hear the
Man,
war
I
on
don't need
Christmas,
TV.
if it's like in a topic of a channel or conversation, I'll just avoid it.
right.
Like, is it something like, well, I mean, as much as I'm familiar with it, is it generally like, someone will set up a manger scene in a church, someone will replace it with a satanic figurine, and that's the war on Christmas?
Yeah.
That seems to be
Or
kind of how it goes.
Billboards are the other.
Yeah.
Somebody putting a Festivus poll up.
Yeah, that's no wonder if any Festivus polls went up, or if any.
Well, I know that was one last year. This year there was a I can't remember what state it was, but there was a zombie manger scene that somebody put up.
Yeah.
So there's obviously not one big huge crescendo outro scene at the end where everybody gets together and wraps it up and looks forward to the next one. So far, this is not looking like that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. Why can't people just either not even get along, just get over it? Do some good. Go to a homeless shelter. War on Christmas. Go feed homeless people. How about that? Both of you.
Yeah, I agree.
If the Christians, I mean not the Christians, if the churches would open their doors to the homeless, to the have-nots on Christmas or the whole year round, let's say, especially in the winter months, if they would do that and show the compassion and show what they're all about, I'm sure we'd all have a whole different perspective on how we think about the churches and the Christians and how they're getting away with not paying, with getting tax breaks and all this kind of stuff because of their places of worship. But then, if there was a lot more action from them, I think we'd all feel a lot better about them being around, and we wouldn't get all
still feel
angry and upset when they do nothing but question things.
Yes.
Well, you'd be happy. The churches I'm familiar with around my area, they do just that. So that's good. I think another thing is, it's communication, right? Because maybe some of them don't advertise as much as they
Well, they certainly don't do that around my area, just so you know.
should, or because of the stigma around certain churches or certain, religions or faith. Like if you have an atheist homeless person, and, I used to volunteer at the Salvation Army quite a bit, which is, by the way, religiously run, charity thing. But, so there would be atheists or, agnostic homeless people who really needed help. And they would tell me these stories about, well, they can only come, to Salvation Army, like whenever they were doing the food drives and stuff. But they're like, I'm like, well, why don't you go to this church or that church? Like, it's right down the road. Like, we can see it from here. I'm like, go there, knock on the door. Like, they have these programs just like what you're asking for. And then they'll say something like, well, they'll try to convert me or something like that. And they just have this stigma. And unfortunately, it's kind of merited. Like, a lot of churches have this reputation for, well, they'll open their doors, they'll give you a place to stay.
Correction, all churches have a conversion program. It's part of their DNA.
They'll give you some clothes and a warm meal, but then they're going to shove a Bible down your freaking throat, and they will. But I think the majority of the churches are like, look, just come get food, come get shelter. We're not going to try to proselytize. Then on the other side of that, the atheists will say, well, I can't possibly go there because they're going to try to do this, and no, I'd rather starve and freeze than, have the New Testament shoved down my neck. When I just think it's misinformation and miscommunication a lot of times, and there needs to be something to bring these walls down more.
A homeless atheist? What are you talking about?
A homeless individual who happens to be atheist?
It's like,
I'm
nah,
trying
nah,
to, I'm trying to
I'm just,
conceive, but I can't.
I'm gonna turn down food and shelter because I don't like God.
Oh, you'd be surprised the willpower people have. But then another
I've
story.
never ever heard of that. I've never.
I mean,
heard
I'm not that proud of a person. If I was homeless, like, I don't care what my belief is. I mean,
Well, I mean, keep in mind we're still in America. So I mean,
Yeah.
when you say starving in America, I think if the homeless atheist person was actual, starving in the most literal sense of the word, they'd be like, screw it, give me food. But when you say starving in America, it means, well, I haven't eaten in 5 hours. So take that as you will. But
I think
Not to
starving
mention,
atheists
starving's a little
have
different
friends.
for a human and a raccoon and a cat. So I gotta say that if a raccoon comes into a shelter, I'm gonna look twice and I might refuse them. Just
I'll
saying.
just direct him to the
What
garbage
fuck
dump.
Are you talking about?
That's what I would probably do too.
But good point, Sid. I agree. I'm a big fan of policing our own. So, a lot of times it shouldn't matter who the source is coming from, but it does. So, I think, the Christian will have an easier time compelling their other people of their camp to hopefully wake up and do the things that they're suggesting. Just like, sometimes, atheists will have better luck communicating to their own camp. It shouldn't be. If it's a good advice, it shouldn't matter where it comes from. If it's good advice, take it and use it. But a lot of times, for whatever reasons, people have a problem doing that.
Well, I just want to make one point here about what you said, Nate. What do you mean by good advice? Is this good advice? Follow Jesus. Jesus is the answer to all your problems. Here's my advice to you. Yeah, if you have a problem, turn to the Bible. Jesus has the answer. Is that good advice, Nate? I would say, I'd speculate that according to you, this is extremely good advice, because you live and breathe the myth of Jesus. You try and sell it every second of every day that you are on Clubhouse to these days, January 2022. So this good advice thing, I'd be very, very, very wary of how to take that good advice suggestion.
Indeed, yes. So we're down to the last 5 minutes, everybody.
Get on with
we
it,
should
Sidney.
probably summarize how the last hour has been, because
Get on. Don't be nervous.
we're trying to make this a regular weekly event.
Yes, we are. Wink, wink.
Regular weekly event.
Yeah, no, I
A regularly weekly event that this is the first and only episode of Nate and I together.
tell you, I've liked listening to the conversation added when I could, but yeah, there were some tangents here and there, but I think the organic flow like that makes for good conversation, as long as there's always someone to kind of push us back in the right direction.
Out.
Indeed, yes.
It's been tough spending the last 56 minutes not yelling at Nate and telling him how wrong he is about everything.
You know.
It's basically an evolving concept. This show's it's the pilot episode, and we've broken through and created something amazing, and that is the Cult of Reason. It's an ever-changing event, though. The pilot episode, there's bound to be a few hiccups, and we basically took them like champs. I mean, just look at the look on Nate's face. He looks like someone that is enjoying this. And he just got done with an hour with 4 atheists. I mean, how many Christians can actually say that? On YouTube, at least.
Would you say we've perhaps created something out of nothing?
Oh!
Oh, I see where you're going with this. I like the idea. I like the concept. I gotta say, the idea is somewhat provocative. You made me think, Mr. Cunningham.
That's what we're paid the big bucks for.
I guess what we'd have to get into is, how do you define nothing?
Someone get that raccoon a rabies shot.
The opposite of something.
Someone give that raccoon a tetanus shot.
Where something doesn't exist, nothing exists.
Or a heroin shot. That's what he meant.
But with
Well,
that
hey,
actually being
so,
said, how about we get into final plugs in the last 2 minutes and then basically go from there? I'll let the chiefs and commanders of this ship direct traffic. What do you guys want to do?
I prefer my title to be Master and Chief of the World.
Okay.
But yeah, so I like the idea, I like the concept, I had fun. Talking about current events, I guess, how they relate to theism or not. I like the concept. I think we had a good time talking about it. Anyway, so yeah, let reason reign. I think I can get on board with the title and the episode title more than anything, because that's really something I want to push as far as I can for my part, because it's just so draining, infuriating, all of the above negative adjectives. When people just, it's like us or them, and if you're not on the opposing side, it's all out war, and there's no reason for that. Like, I think a lot of times people will have coworkers and things like that in place of businesses, and religion won't even come up. Like, after a decade of working, you won't even know what the other person thinks or believes, and you coexist just fine, and you have a good, healthy work relationship. So why should it be any different? Like, just because you know what the other person believes, if they don't believe just like you, so what? Anyways, do good things.
Yeah, keep your beliefs to yourselves. Good things will come to all who do that. I want to wish everybody a happy New Year for tomorrow night. And I'd like to thank Mike for setting this show up. I think you got some great foresight. Nate, always good to have you as a co-host. And Raccoon and Kitty, hey, it was great to have you again in the Hangout. And I hope to see you all next week.
Thank you for joining us for this ship, and it's been a great sail. And remember to let reason reign, for the age of reason is upon us.
Till next time, goodbye.
Happy New Year. All.
Bye.
Arrivederci world.
So that went rather well, I thought. And unfortunately, we never had a follow-on episode. However, what I did from the next week was I had my own show called Reason Speak, and I think I had it I think I did it every week. So we can be doing some reactions to that at some point. I have a Reason Speak playlist up on my channel, and you can actually watch them at your leisure if you like. Doing reactions to them is not quite at the top of my list. Doing reactions to Nate Cunningham is closer to the top of my list. I did plan on following up with a reaction to another Nate live stream, but I think I'll leave that for another episode. So right now, if anybody would like, I see that look out for number one. Oh, he might not be there anymore. He was in the chat. I will leave the chat room open for a bit. Tell you what, while we are waiting for people to come on in, we can have a quick preview of what's coming up in our next Nate reaction. So I'll play a few minutes of this, and you can come in anytime you like. And if nobody comes in, say after a few minutes, I'll just shut it down.
Hola. Happy Tuesday. So, when I try to schedule things, they don't usually happen. It's all I can do to make it here to my own hangout on time. Anyway, so the topic was going to be extreme religious fundamentalist atheists But I gave that up for another topic, which was oh, what was it? Is evolution an empirical science or not? Anyway, I invited like 3 people who actually live and work and have made a living and a career out of this field of study. You know, I think they have their credentials in microbiology, evolutionary biology, and some other something. But anyways, none of them are here. So hopefully we can continue this another day. But anyway, I want to give my thoughts. I only had a couple thoughts, and they're I think fairly simple, fairly short. And after that, we've got a new guy, Mind of a Heathen, and we're just going to have an open chat. So go to natecunningham.org/guest if you would like to join, and bring a topic, question, whatever. So this is basically the only case I wanted to make, and it's kind of like, you know, we did a video a while ago, you know, what the Bible says or what Christianity says versus what people say it says. And, you know, it should be easy, but we had to address it because I think if people just read this stuff themselves instead of hearing everything third hand or second hand, a lot of confusion would immediately clear itself up. Same thing with science, right? Everyone has an opinion about creation, evolution, these type things, but a lot of it is knowledge gained second or third hand. Kind of like the second-hand news reporter Mike Crispino from Saturday Night Live. You know, I think it's an accurate representation of just how wrong we can get things sometimes. So one thing this will not turn into is creation versus evolution. Don't care. That's not what this hangout today is about. The only purpose of this hangout today, the only initial starting purpose of this hangout today is simply to say, you know, what does science say versus what people say it says? What does evolution actually say versus what people say it says? And so to start, I really just wanted to say that as far as empirical evidence, well, let me set it up better. So usually the conversation will start a little ways away from that, right? The point will become clear in a minute. Where the
All right, I'm just going to stop it right there, and that's essentially what we will be tackling next. That'll be my reaction to this this Google Hangout held by Nate Cunningham, where he shows his undoubted and heavy Christian bias. He is, at the end of the day, Nate, I like, you're a great guy. I'd hang out with you, no problem. But at the end of the day, Jesus is a myth. We all know it. And you're trying to sell Jesus as a path to eternal life, which only starts to happen when you die. All right, so eternal life would be cool if you didn't die, you know, for the first, say, 500 years, 1,000 years, 2,000, I don't know. Let's say you could do that. But then, if you never died and you had eternal life, I think that would be fucking very cool if you didn't age and with all that other stuff. Very cool. I'm into that. But to spend your whole life trying to sell eternal life as an after-death experience, I don't know, man. Your brain has evolved to be a very, very complex organism. Don't waste it. Don't waste it on myths, stories. It's selling pipe dreams, selling your wishful thinking. Doesn't work. I will see you in the next episode, which might very well be the one where we continue on with the critique of Nate's video.
These brain gaps are happening too much recently. Is that a sign of age? Right. Okay. So the Christian will say something like, well, there's a God, and if you seek and search, you'll find. And then, you know, the opposition of Christianity is like, well, I need empirical evidence. I need to observe, test, repeat God in a controlled environment, and then I'll believe. Well, fine. But my point is, why are you holding things to such ridiculous standards as complete and total empirical evidence when you don't hold these same standards to pretty much any other aspect of your life, including evolution? I only pick on evolution because this is something that, it's like the theory of gravity. It's called a theory, but I mean, you might as well say it's absolute proof,